everyone. Welcome to Lawsuit Cases, Souls Driven by Wanderlust. I'm Valerie Pennington. I'm your host. I'm a biology professor at Southwestern College. Online, you can find me as the Penguin Prof, but I'm wearing a new hat today, and I'm super excited because I love travel, and I love talking about travel and talking to other people who are passionate about it. And today, for my very first show, I have the most wonderful guest, Dr. Lev Tsimring. He is by day a physicist at UC San Diego, and he studies nonlinear phenomena and pattern formation in physics and biology. We could have you on the Science Squawk show, to talk about that.
Anytime.
But today he's here to talk about travel photography because he's also a professional photographer, and he is passionate about what he does. He has been traveling for most of his life, and he has amazing stories and photos to share. So thank you, Lev, so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Me. Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah.
This is really great. Actually, you and I met like 12 years ago, and you were hired to do some photo shoots when I was in a Argentine Tango dance ensemble. So
Yes.
That's how we met. I was shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're a physicist too? So super exciting person. So today's plan is kind of to talk about some of the stories, travel stories, for Lev to share some of his amazing pictures with everyone, because of course, many of us wish we were traveling right now, but we can't. So Lev, do you want to start by talking about maybe your favorite genre of photography, or would that be a good place to start?
Sure. Well, maybe I should correct you in a couple of things in your introduction. Yeah.
Please.
So 2 corrections. One is I'm not a professional photographer in the strict sense of the word, because what they say, what professional photographer is, that the person who derives his income from photography. And I really don't. I mean, I make a little bit of money on selling some prints and some books, and I'm going to show you some books which I have, but it's not nearly my source of income. So, and I don't view it as such, because
Okay.
I view it as a passion. Just you correctly mentioned, it is a passion, and that's how I think it is a lot more fun to do it for pleasure than to do it for business. So that's,
I understand. I do understand, but I got to tell you, when folks see your photography, there's no way we can't call you a professional. I mean,
well,
but I get it. I do understand.
The second correction is that you said I've been traveling most of my life, and that's actually an interesting story, because I wouldn't say so. It's I'm, maybe you can tell by my accent that I'm actually not from I was not born here. I was born in Russia, which was at that time Soviet Union, and I spent slightly more than half of my life there, and during the time when it was Soviet Union, and I was not allowed to travel anywhere except for inside of the country. That I was not an exception. It's not like I was an outlaw. Like most of people who lived in the Soviet Union were not allowed to travel outside of the country. Right. So I never have been outside Soviet Union until I was 30. I think I was basically 30 years old. And so we were more or less on a lockdown. I mean, now we can appreciate what lockdown means, right? So I was on a lockdown for 30 years, not for 2 months. Wow. And can you imagine when the things started to change, when the Iron Curtain came down, and when I finally, not me, but everybody was kind of free to go, free to travel, and then eventually I went to United States and joined UCSD and continued my physics career here. That's when I was like, now the whole world opened for me. After this 30 years of abstinence, I was able to travel more or less where I wanted, and I definitely wanted to take advantage of this. And luckily, my profession allowed me to do this, because I'm very fortunate to be a physicist and travel to conferences, travel to collaborate with people all over the world, and also travel for pleasure. And so in these 30 years I've been here in the country, I visited, I don't know how many countries, maybe 40, maybe more. I lost count, but I really enjoy this freedom and enjoy being able to, first of all, to communicate with people and to see the world. And now once I started to do photography seriously, and that didn't happen right away. I mean, I did photography for a very long time since I was a child, but not professionally, not seriously, sort of like everybody does, without the cell phone though. But I started being more serious about this maybe 20 years ago, right around like 2000 maybe. And And I went through many genres. So I tried to do studio, I tried to do landscapes, all kind of things. But what I found my passion is taking pictures of people everywhere. I just love to observe how people live their lives and maybe take some snapshots of that. I don't want to tell the whole story in a movie fashion, but I want to find a frame which would tell you the story in a single moment. And this moment, you have to capture it. And people say that I'm pretty observant, so I can find these moments when other people just sort of pass by. We can walk together with my wife or my friends, and I would just snap something and keep going. And then I show them this picture and say, where did you see that? I said, we saw it together. You just didn't pay attention.
Yes, I've had that exact event happen. Right. And I think that is, I think that's part of the gift.
So people photography around the world. So combining my passion for travel and my interest in people and the way they live and the way they communicate, that led to this body of work, which I have it on my website. I published a book. I published a book on this recently. Well, not so recently, about 5 years ago. But I don't know if it's a good time I can tell about this project, which is maybe interesting for our people.
Absolutely. Are you talking about the Parallels project?
That's right. Yeah. So
that is amazing. Yes. If you could share and talk about that, I think
which I don't know if you can see it, which I published about 5 years ago. So the idea of this project, it sort of came out not consciously, but sort of transpired through the time of my travel and taking pictures of people everywhere. I started to find some parallels between the way people live their lives in very different circumstances, different countries, different cultures. So culture can be different, the whole environment can be very different. But if you go deeper beyond, down, below the surface, you can start seeing that people basically are the same. They have the same stories. They have the same emotions. There is love, there is humor, there is some passion, there is sometimes anger, there is laughter, whatever. But you can find these parallels. And so I started, first of all, I started to look back in my archive and seeing those parallel pictures. And I started putting them together. Then I started taking more pictures in the same venue. And then it basically accumulated into this whole project, which I actually it's still going. So I have a website where I continue to post these parallels whenever I find them. But I can show you some pictures.
Oh yes, let's see.
Why don't we do that? So let me share the screen.
Stunning.
And let's see. Okay.
It's amazing because it's such a brilliant idea. Oh, here we go. This is fabulous.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Can we? Oh, perfect.
All right. So parallels. So parallels in both senses of the word, parallels geographical and parallels. So this is an example. One picture is from New York, and another picture is from India, and you see women gossiping. And what caught my attention is the gesture, the hand gesture. You can see it's the same gesture in both of these, right? Yes. There's fingers sticking out. It was just a focal point of the composition in both photographs, but the circumstances could not be more different. But it's still the same idea. So this is. Three people enjoying their day in the sun in Spain, San Sebastian, and in Turkey. Again, totally different cultures, different people, but people enjoy themselves. And so this is actually I have a whole other project which I call Dogs in the City. I don't know if I will have time to talk about this. It's all on my website, where I just love to take pictures of dogs in the not dogs by themselves, but dogs in urban environment, in how they communicate with people, how they become people-like in a sense. So in this example, there are two people and their dogs, and you can appreciate how dogs look like their owners, which is not new. People know that happens, but in this case, it's in both cases. I think it's pretty amazing how they look similar. And
it actually is incredible
and behave similarly.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
You can imagine what the dogs are thinking in these moments. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, on the right picture, the dogs are sleeping.
Sleeping, right.
Yeah. All right. So this is like parallels and parallels. So this is you can see that. So in both pictures, people are they walking by some posters or sitting by some posters, not realizing they are like mirror images of those things. So here is a woman with a dog sitting behind a woman with a cat, in front of woman with a cat, and here is this also two guys.
So while we're looking at this, I have a question for you. So obviously, street photography, I know, is one of your great passions. Do you generally find, for example, like the perfect background, like I'm looking at, the scene in Italy, and you see that, wow, this is going to be something remarkable when people walk by. So are you like camping out there? Or
You're asking for my secrets? Yes.
Yes, I am. I'm an amateur photographer.
Yes, it happens for sure. Yeah, sometimes it's just a spur of the moment. In other cases, I just think, okay, so I mean, what the chances that I will see a person in dark glasses in Italy is not small.
Right.
So the chance that I will see two people in identical glasses, it's small, but I was lucky in this case. So yeah, so I was actually, I spent some time. I think my wife was actually shopping at this one. So I really didn't. I was not in a rush anywhere. So I was hanging out there, and then boom, these two people started to approach, and I was like, okay, so I have to take that. And this is one of the pleasures of street photography, when you find these things, and then all the stars somehow come together, and the picture happens. So that's
Oh, that's remarkable.
It's like a hunter's instinct,
It's even the attitude is mirrored. I mean, that's remarkable for both of them. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I also like to take street portraits, and in these cases, in these cases, I didn't ask them for. Some people often ask me if I ask permission to take photos, and in most cases I don't, and I try to be unobtrusive, and I don't like to take pictures which would actually put people in a bad light. So it's just not my nature. So I'm not trying to make fun of people, but I just like to find interesting moments. And so these people didn't see me taking these photos, but you see, it's still close up, so I can sometimes.
Yeah, what kind of zoom are you at? I mean,
sometimes it's not zoom. It's just you have to be quick and unobtrusive. So sometimes people see me after I took the pictures, and they start asking me questions. Okay, why did you do this? And here, smile helps.
Okay.
A lot, and then you can explain. Okay, so I just like to take photos and just talk to them. So I love to talk to people. Maybe after I take the pictures, sometimes before. And if some people, they don't like this. So some people sometimes they get nasty, and I had some accidents like that. So normally, it's nothing bad happens. It's just I always say, if you don't like me, take a picture. I will erase it, and I really erase it. I don't like to go over their wheel.
Yes.
But, sometimes you have to have a little bit of a thick skin.
Yes, I've done that. I think one time someone asked me to erase the photo, and I showed them it was erased and everything was forgiven. But that's hard. That's actually one of my biggest obstacles when I try and do street photography is. I
will just flip through a few others. Just
oh wow!
I don't know. I'm not watching time. I hope you do.
I am. Yes. We're good. We're good.
So this is two. I mean, this is. I think these are both homeless women in Paris. I mean, how can it be more different? Paris and San Luis Potosí in Mexico. But it was interesting that these two women, they have, despite of these dire circumstances, they have this femininity. Still going out. You can actually see that in their.
Yes.
Their smiles and their posture. It's kind of I found it fascinating.
Wow.
So this is two people in the rain.
Oh, that's wonderful.
New York, Brighton Beach. And you know what Brighton Beach is? It's a
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's a Russian speaking neighborhood in New York, which is a very fascinating place. It's like a piece of old Soviet Union inside of the United States.
New York has those neighborhoods, and you go in, and all of a sudden you feel like you're in another country. And I went through there.
Right.
I love your choice of black and white for this whole serise. Did you?
Well, I have plenty of color photos. It's just I just selected these things, and in this book, which I showed before, I don't know if people can see that.
Yeah, we can see.
Basically, it is all black and white except for like 4 photos which separate sections. 4 different sections there. It was. I don't like mix them together in a book. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But I have color as well. But I think I love black and white photos.
No, that was actually my point, was that you can see so much more. I love black and white a lot, especially for things like this. It's amazing how sometimes when you add the color, you lose the whole essence of the story. And these are so compelling in black and white.
Not necessarily. I mean, there are no rules here. Not necessarily. Yeah. I mean, my workflow process is that I take photos like everybody now. I mean, I'm using digital photo, not everybody, almost everybody. I'm using digital camera, and digital camera, 99.9% of them takes color photos. And I always take a color photo, and then I decide whether I should convert it to black and white or not.
Yes.
I always do. I always convert it to black and white just to see how it looks. And then I just make a decision whether it looks better in black and white or in color.
Yes.
And then sometimes in many cases, black and white wins it, and in other cases, color. Yes. And it depends not just on the photo; it depends on my mood, in a sense, right? So one day I may like black and white more for whatever reason. Maybe my mood is more somber. I don't know. But so this is people eating in Japan and Peru.
Oh wow!
Lonely people eating.
Oh.
This is the two fun photos. And just this photo in France and Marseille is just so crazy. So there's this, there is this, couple photographing for the wedding, I'm assuming. And then there is this guy selling, it's in a port, in this old port in Marseille.
Okay.
It's such a crazy place. I love it. And this is in Portugal. Fried fish is the thing.
Beautiful.
And so this is Moscow and Mexico. And you can see that they'll blow, there is this, bubbles, soap bubbles, and it just looks like soap bubbles just flew from Moscow into St. Louis Potosí or something. So you see that how it went from one to another.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this is the Bella Rickshaws in San Diego, in our own San Diego, and in China. Yeah. And see people having lunch in China and in France. It's another couple.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, this is people are on I call it dates in quotes, because people are they're together in a restaurant, but all doing their own things.
Yes, exactly.
No communication, which is fun.
I have to wonder, after this pandemic ends, if people are going to be paying more attention to each other and appreciating each other more in those social settings, because I have, at least for a while, I hope so, because it's so distressing to see people together, but everyone's on their own screen, and it's like, what are you doing?
Well, the question is, but some other people say that maybe we will be much more paranoid for a while, being scared of other people. So that's, and we should view them as a source of virus. So it remains to be seen. It's an interesting, how we're going to come out of this, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
I hope that, people are very, adaptive and resilient species. So I think we will get back to normal eventually, but it may take some time.
Yeah. Those two, can you go back for just 1 second?
Sure.
I was just going to say how interesting it might be it is for myself and people watching, how my perception of these two photographs in particular has changed based on everything that's going on, because now my heart is just, it's kind of aching in a way that it wouldn't have, you know what I mean, a few months ago.
Yes, exactly.
So that's beautiful.
Yeah. So this is the book. There is this links here. So if you're interested in this whole project, there are many more for pairs on this website. My website is levtsimring.com, very easy to remember. So there's a link on the website. I can actually show that, which goes to parallels, and there are a bunch of these pairs of photos there. And this book actually is available. So if anany is interested, so here it is.
Please go support.
It can be purchased for a small amount of money.
It would be a beautiful addition to your coffee table. It's such an interesting idea. And as I looked through the photos before we were doing the show today, and of course, I've actually been watching you post these on Facebook as you continue to add to the series. Yeah. And I just think how interesting it is that I've never seen that before. And the feeling that you get of this sort of camaraderie with the whole of the human race. We think we're so different, and in many ways, of course, we are, but we, like exactly what you said, we all do the same things. At some level, we want the same things, and your photos really capture that. And
it's always it's a dichotomy. It's such an interesting. People are they are very different, and they are the same at the same time. It's like
yes.
It's so strange. So you can focus on one, or you can focus on another. Some people focus on differences. I find it more interesting to focus on similarities while appreciating the differences. So for me, it's the most interesting thing. So,
I can see that. So I have a question. Of course, many people, myself included, we had travel plans for the summer, which are not happening anymore. And it is, I think, a huge benefit to think about things in a new way, think about how to be creative in a new way under these current conditions. For me, it was actually this show. I'm like way out of my comfort zone here compared to what I usually do. And you also took this opportunity to do something very unusual. And you have some photos that you did during this pandemic, which I think, if you wouldn't mind sharing those, I think they would be very interesting.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I love to see that, people, they take, in fact, quite frankly, the creator of this whole Bella Vie TV format that we're in has done exactly that, because her restaurant was, of course, closed. And look at all the beauty and amazing inspiration that's come out of that. So I really would like to highlight that, because I want to see more stories like that.
Yeah. So, okay. So I did a couple of projects during this pandemic, because I wanted to find some outlet for creativity, because I was stuck at home and nothing was, like you said, we were planning an exciting trip to Iceland in March, and we had to cancel it because, everybody was canceling everything. So we stayed at home. And so one thing we did was, I think many people heard about this. It's like it was a strange kind of craze phenomenon online. So I think Getty Center was first who came up with this idea. They suggested that what they can do is they can try to recreate some famous paintings or sculptures, and they hinted that it would be nice to recreate something from their own collection, but it didn't have to be. Using staying at home without any going out, just use whatever you have in your disposal, and whatever people you have in your household, and so people started to pay. Then the other museums, other venues started to suggest the same thing, and so people responded to that and very actively. And I guess people need these things to do something like this. So creativity is important, and so I saw that on one of the Facebook groups. Was a very active, mostly Russian-speaking Facebook groups called isolation or izoizolatsiya, because of the izo means like art in Russian. So that's why there is double iso.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and so I started to play with that too, and I took a really big advantage of the fact that my mom was staying with us. So normally she lives separately, but we decided to move her in our house for a while, and so she spent the whole month with us. And she's a wonderful model. I mean, she's very good looking, unlike me. And so she has her own history, because she was a TV personality in her past. So she was a TV director and journalist.
Really?
Oh, wow. Yeah. And so I can show you some pictures, but we did. So we did some photos with her. And I don't know which, we started with this one. Let me just share the screen. Hold on. Where is the share screen? So basically, we decided, let me first show what I have. All right. Can you see that?
Oh, yes.
All right. So this is.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
So my mom is on the right, and the painting. So it's a classical painting from Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. It's Henrik Blommaert, Old Woman Selling Eggs. That's what it's called. And so we got some eggs from Costco on that day, and we decided to go for it. That
is almost uncanny. I mean, oh my gosh.
Right. So the face is different. Yeah. So my mom, I think, is a better model than what
I would absolutely agree with that. Yes.
Anyways, but we had a lot of fun. My wife was helping us with wardrobe and costume design. So see how perfect this is.
Yes.
So kudos to her, and kudos to my mom. She was up for this, and she loved it, every minute of it. So we did this, and it was pretty. So amazingly, it was like thousands of people liked it on Facebook. The difference between what we did and most of other people did on that group was most people. It was mostly people were trying to do parodies. So using like toilet paper, using like whatever household items like pans and plates and spoons and all whatever. Just trying to recreate it so it's similar, but it doesn't look similar. So and it's fun. So there are some really amazingly hilarious and inventive photos there. the photos themselves were kind of so they were amateurish photos, which was okay for that particular purpose. It's fine because you want to make fun. So that's not an issue. But we decided to do something slightly different. So I wanted to actually use whatever ability I have in actually making good photos and using professional lights, because I have those at home. And so we decided to just go for it and just make really nice looking portraits. And so that's what we did. So this was the first one. And then we did, this is me.
Oh my gosh.
So this is from, I mean, they're not in the correct order. In the order we did it, but I don't think it matters. So, this is Aesop, the famous fable writer. And this is from 1640. And so I found that I'm kind of like him. No?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So this is Rembrandt. So we did several Rembrandt photos because I love Rembrandt as a painter. I love how he uses light, and so that was so much fun to do it. So again, this is my mom on the right.
That is unbelievable.
So this is my mom had a day off, and so I decided to do a remark. Yeah.
You see what happens when mom has a day off. Oh, that's great.
I didn't have a skull, so I used the mask.
You should have called me. I could have set you up.
That's all right. No,
you got skulls everywhere, but it came out so great, though.
Yeah. You see the gloves and the sanitizers, and they see these things. Actually, this is fun because they look exactly like coronavirus, don't you think? Except for they're a little bit bigger. So these are how they call it, sweet gum tree or sugar gum tree.
Yeah.
So there are lots of them actually on the ground. At least they were in April. So I just picked some of them. Just looked at them. I saw them many times before, of course, many years ago. It never occurred to me that it looked like coronavirus, but now, of course, on everybody's mind. So I picked some of them and decided to do a still life with them. So.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So this is another Rembrandt, reading woman. So it was a lot of fun making this headpiece for my mom.
Gosh.
It was interesting. Yeah. So this is another Rembrandt. It's a very famous painting. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is. Can you see this? I think this photo. I think it got something like 43,000 likes on Facebook. Can you imagine that on the group? So people.
I can actually. That is absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
Did this? I mean, I'm thinking about the days of setup and testing. It's not just the concept and the costume, but I mean everything.
It took maybe a couple of hours to do. Actually, it's not that.
Really.
I mean, it took me some time to process. I mean, you can imagine that it takes some processing also to make the shade, the kind of
right. You can match the intensity of light.
But photographing itself is not long, so it's. Well, this was the first one. So, so we decided to go for Gainsborough. So that was the very first photo which we did, and so that's where we tried also to make some fun. So we see I'm using toilet paper and gloves and some ribbons which I had. So and my wife's hat and
it's perfect. Yeah. It's perfect. I can't believe she had a hat like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and we have several weeks, so we're set for these kind of things.
I think the gloves are just perfect. Looks awesome.
Yeah, and I think this is the last we did. So this is my wife here playing the role of this boy. It's interesting that this it's a famous painting by Rubens, but it goes by two different names. In some places it's called a woman and an old woman and a boy, and in some other places like on Wikipedia page it's called two women. So it's hard to tell what this person is, a boy or a young woman. But we didn't have any boy in the household, so my wife had to go.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So
that is absolutely remarkable.
Right. So this was my project.
Thank you so much for sharing that in particular, because that really goes to show how, I mean, a creative person, even in like dire constraints, okay, you've got to do this, with what you have, and to see what you were able to create is just remarkable.
Lev, okay, so here's the thing. My concept for lost suitcases has a lot to do with the idea that sometimes the most amazing adventures that we have are things that happen when everything falls apart and you lose your suitcases. Things don't go according to plan. And to close us out, you said you had a story that might fit that description. Do you want to share that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I was, when you asked me beforehand, so I was thinking about this, and of course, everybody has their stories which don't go as planned, and things, not so pleasant things happen. But usually, I mean, I can remember 10 of those, but typically they lead to, no, I mean, they don't really turn out well. I mean, they turn out okay, but they don't lead to something specifically out of this. So I lost my suitcases, I broke my lenses, but yeah, you can live. So life goes on, but it doesn't connect to some really interesting experience. But there was one story which I remember just today, which was, I think, fits your description. So we went to our first trip to Buenos Aires was in 2002, and fascinating. I'm sure you've been there as a tango dancer. You've been there. Yeah. So we visited it again this year. Last year. But so that was our first visit, 2002, and fantastic place. We loved it. We loved everything about it. We loved tango. So we went to see tango, obviously. So there are some multiple places where you can. We of course we couldn't tango at that time. We didn't dance, but we loved to see it. So we went to this place. It's a famous little bar called Bar Sur. I don't know if you know this. It's a famous small bar where a couple always dances for visitors. It's a small group, a small bar, maybe like 5, maybe 10, 15 people only there, and there's a small dance floor, of course, with black and white square tiles, as it should be, and a couple dances. And so we had a great time. So we drank some wine. We looked at the dance, how they did tango. Everything was great. And then in the end of it, what they did is they started this couple. It's a beautiful young couple, beautiful girl and the boy. And so they started pulling people on the dance floor to dance with them.
Yes.
So my wife danced with this guy, and it was fine because he was leading her. So she didn't really need to do anything. But then this girl pulled me to the dance floor, and I had to be a leader, and I didn't know anything about tango, nothing. And it was so embarrassing because I didn't know what to do. And I was dancing like I normally do, but it was not tango. And I felt horrible. But it led to the thing that when we came back, not immediately, but in a couple of years, we started taking tango lessons because we thought it would be a great thing to learn. And so we took some lessons, and by the way, our first teachers, I think were the same teachers. I don't know if they were teachers, but at least I know you know them, and you danced with them. It's Todd and Marisabel.
Yes.
There's this couple who are wonderful teachers, and we stayed with them for several years, and they gave us so much, and so we started dancing, and I thank them, and I thank that accident which led us to actually wanted to learn it and to dance. And so now when we came back to Buenos Aires, we actually stopped. We used to take classes every week, maybe even more. So it was for several years. Now we don't take classes. We dance occasionally, not very often, but something stays with you, so we don't lose this. So
yes,
yeah, you know the technique. And so we went to Buenos Aires last year, and so we went to a milonga, to real milonga. So somebody, our friend took us there, and so there we danced, and I even invited an Argentinian girl to dance with me, and she agreed, and I had a great time. I don't know if she had a great time. That's the secret. But
I'm sure she did. I'm sure she did. So milonga is an Argentine tango dance party, and it's the big social event. Yeah. Many places have one a week, and it's where people come together.
It starts technically at that particular milonga. Technically, I think started at 11 at night.
Oh, early! That's an early one in Argentina.
Well, but there was nobody there. We came.
Right. You can't show up at 11.
It was music, but there was nobody there. And then people started showing up maybe well after midnight.
Yes, yes. They'll generally dance till sunrise.
Right.
Sunrise is when you go home.
Yeah, we left, I think, at like 3 o'clock in the morning. People were still coming in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's like the height of the night. It's so great when you have stories like that. And I think that that's one of those moments that when you're having it, that embarrassment and you're thinking to yourself, what am I going to do? And then it opened up a whole new, world you may never have thought about taking tango lessons before. And that's a wonderful story, probably because I'm an Argentine tango dancer especially. So I really like that story.
Yeah, you will appreciate that because you're a wonderful dancer. So
I really, really do. Oh my gosh, Lev, the time flew by here. And I just have a couple things in closing, but the first most important thing is I could just talk to you all night. And I'm sure there's people watching saying, no, we want more photos. But all the links to your website, your photo journals, and everything that you have is all going to be available in the description box if you're watching on YouTube. We'll put it in the Facebook event if you're watching there. But definitely, if people want to get in touch with you, all that information will be there because you are just awesome. And I just want to say thank you so much for doing this. And I also want to plug a couple of other things really quick. Next week, everyone, you want to tune back in because my next guest on Lost Suitcases is going to be Dr. Kevin Petty from Anatomia Italiana. That's a program. He's actually an anatomy professor. Actually, next week is International Week. So it's perfect because he's actually he's got dual citizenship, US and Italian. And he does an amazing program about art and anatomy and actually a study abroad program. He has one for undergraduates and one for professional, like medical professionals and professors. And it's awesome. He's also going to be sharing some amazing photographs, which really tell the story about kind of where modern anatomical illustration and modern medical school training, where all of that began. So you definitely want to come back and see that next week. Coming up next on Bella V TV, you want to stay tuned. Also, it's going to be a great show called Ask Dr. Kat. Dr. Catherine Williams, she's got an amazing guest on tonight. I'm going to be staying tuned for sure. She's featuring Dr. Jania Scarlett, and she's the founder of what's called superhero therapy. This woman sounds amazing. She's a Ukrainian Chernobyl survivor, and she uses this amazing evidence-based therapy to help people with severe trauma and anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. Definitely want to stay tuned for that. I just want to thank also everybody for watching and to please leave feedback since this is the first episode of this show. I really like feedback. What did you like? What would you like to see? And if you know someone who you think should be on the show, please let me know that as well. And I want to thank again Amanda and Bella V TV for just creating this amazing environment where we can have this kind of conversation because that was just delightful. So thank you again, Lev. That was really fun.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
And everyone who's watching, stay safe and keep those suitcases in storage for a little bit longer, but come back here to get your virtual travel fix. Next week, Saturday at 6. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.